So today we begin a brand new sermon series, ironically called Brand New. Seems right that we should start a new sermon series at the beginning of a new year, but also as a part of this sermon series, it will also continue to develop itself and its themes throughout the entire year here at Cathedral of Hope, where we've decided that this year at Cathedral of Hope is a call to commitment, a call to be all in. A call to delve deeper into our relationship with God, to make more real our relationship with God, and through the relationships that we have with one another, through the celebrations of our worship experience on Sundays, and through our commitment to follow this Jesus, just as the Magi followed the star all the way to the place where they found the Christ child, that you and I are being called in this new day, in this brand new season, to be all in, to create lives that truly matter, to create lives that make a difference in the world. And in this sermon series for the next 4 weeks, we'll be thinking about some things that are brand new. As we begin a new year, many of us are thinking about brand new things. We're thinking about new attitudes. We're thinking about new lives, about new decisions, about new things that we can take on. Not necessarily New Year's resolutions, because we know that we often break those things, but to take on some new things, some new possibilities, and to perhaps even rediscover some things about our lives. Some of the things that perhaps we let go of too quickly in 2018, that we could actually make fresh commitments as the new year starts. Brand new lives, brand new attitudes. And some of us tomorrow will have a brand new baby. And so we congratulate you on the arrival of your new daughter tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the morning, prophesied upon you. Brand new. Ways in which we recommit to this life that we have in Jesus. And it is in those brand new ways that we also come to celebrate Epiphany. Epiphany has two meanings for us. Epiphany within the church is the time when we remember the Magi who arrived at the Christ child scene, wherever and whenever that was. We know that it was not in the manger, but we do know that those Magi arrived and that they would honor this Christ child. We remember the Magi and their revelation, their understanding, the gifts that they offered to the Christ child were symbols of sovereignty and symbols of who Christ was to become. But Epiphany is also another way of us understanding Epiphany is that aha moment. And the certainty of those Magi had that aha moment when they met with the Christ child. It says in our scripture that that everything within them leapt for joy when the star stopped moving. Now, that could be taken two ways, of course. It could be delighted that they had finally arrived, or it could be that they suddenly arrived and they were able to worship. The Epiphany, that they were able to go and to pay homage to this child, that they had traveled through the desert for however long it was to arrive and to find the Christ. It was also an epiphany that this Christ would grow to be a savior of the world. For these Magi were not Jews. These Magi were Gentiles, they were non-Jews, and it seems absolutely appropriate that the beginning of Jesus' life, right from the very beginning, the revelation of God was a God that was given to all of the peoples. A revelation of God that would last down through the generations to us today, to arrive with us. Just as the star stopped over the place where Jesus was, the star has stopped here this day. And has given us a perhaps new opportunity to find that revelation of Christ who is Messiah, Christ who is God incarnate, Christ who is within each and every one of us. It is that revelation of the Epiphany, the aha moments for each and every one of us, wherever we are on our spiritual journeys, that compel us to come and to be in worship. To be in this sacred space this morning with sisters and brothers and siblings alike, so that we might pay homage to this Christ. Brand new day, brand new morning, brand new life, and brand new attitude. Sometimes it's hard to get a brand new attitude. It's hard sometimes to get up fresh every morning and be committed to the day and to what the day might bring, the good and the not so good. But the attitude that we bring into life, the attitude that we bring into the day, the attitude of those Magi as they traveled for however long it was important to keep their focus on what is real and what was presented before them. You and I, as we open this day and open this year, have that same opportunity to come with a brand new attitude. And I wonder what our lives would be if we could come this day and perhaps in the days to come with that brand new attitude of gratitude. That attitude of knowing that somehow God is still working, somehow God is still moving, that somehow in the midst of the chaos of the world, in the midst of the stars that continue to shine brightly in the sky, some that perhaps don't lead us to Jesus, but in the midst of all of that, we could hear and see the voice of God moving in our own lives and waking with that sense of gratitude. There's one thing that I appreciate from the African American church and from black folks specifically is that they know what suffering is like, and they know that the blessings come in the morning. They have this sense of appreciation for where their lives are this day. Perhaps it's because they've come from a suffering experience. There's something that Cathedral of Hope has in common with our African American siblings is that many of us have come from that place of suffering. And we've known the necessary attitude of gratitude to be able to wake up every morning and still give honor and praise to God. To still give honor and praise, and to see how that attitude might shift our perspective. The Magi had to have a different attitude when they met with Herod, but they had an even different experience when they left Herod. For they knew that they needed to return by a different route. They knew that doing the same thing over and over again would not bring different results. And how many of us, being honest, just to yourself, no hands this morning, but being honest to ourselves, know that we do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. A brand new attitude. An attitude that we might wake up this morning, wake up tomorrow morning with a sense of purpose and with a sense of need, a sense of urgency to deepen our experience with God. For many of us have despaired perhaps of the ways of the world. Despaired of the ways of government, despaired of the ways that have led us nowhere. And we come on this day to return to the sense of the sacred, to the sense of the holy, to that which makes sense. This God who put a star in the sky and led those Magi, puts a star in the sky and leads us to a place of goodness, to a shift in our attitude, to a shift in where we have been to where we might want to go in 2019. You see, the star has landed, and it lands in you, and it lands in me. That the star that the Magi followed, that sat over the house that day, is a star that has now been planted in us. And we have been called to be those beacons that will shine light into the darkest of places. Perhaps it shines light into Austin and the seat of power, or even to the White House, or even to the major places of authority. Perhaps our shift in attitude, our new life, our new experience with God might cause us to resist, just like those Magi. For they did not succumb to the power of Herod. They returned by a different way, putting their own lives at danger and at risk. God invites us to have that same tenacity, that same experience of that shift of attitude, that brand new attitude that with God all things are possible. That with God all things are new. That with God, our past does not define us. But with God, this present moment, this shift in our attitude, this shift in who we are, this brand new experience of God living and breathing within us, no matter whether we've been attending church all our lives or this is our first experience, that today we can come with the decision to have a brand new experience with God and to open ourselves up to a new possibility of what God might be doing in us and through us. A brand new experience. So often on the first Sunday of the new year, folks who have perhaps not attended church more frequently return to church. And I'm grateful for those who have done that this morning, not at Cathedral of Hope. You come every week anyway. But for those who have made a decision to start the new year out, perhaps there is a reason for you being here today, to have that brand new attitude and to make worship the most important thing that you do in the week. To come and to express that sense of gratitude, to have a reminder of the values of the God that we worship, to have a reminder, a re-encapsulation, if you will, of all that we believe. And to be able to then move through the week practicing those places of gratitude in your daily experience. It's so easy to fall out of practice in a world that continues to condemn and judge and hate. But every single Sunday, here at Cathedral of Hope United Church of Christ, we have an opportunity to come back and to be renewed and to find new meaning and new purpose and perhaps some inspiration that will cause us to continue on this way, to continue to follow the star that continues to beam its light in the world, and to ensure that we make it through, to ensure that we do not succumb to the powers that would want to prevent us from being whole, that might want to prevent us from being all that we can be, that might prevent us from having that attitude of gratitude. Perhaps the star is still in the sky, leading us to the places of goodness and holiness and blessedness, and perhaps the star in the sky for someone else might just be you. It might just be your experience, your living out what it means to be a follower of Jesus, what it might mean for another person to find their home with God as well. I believe that worship is perhaps the most important thing that we do in our lives beyond eating and breathing. It is to come together as fellowship, as community, to travel one with the other. Those magi did not travel, just the three of them, all the way to the place where Jesus was. If you know anything about travel in the first century Middle Eastern times, they traveled in large caravans. Now, that does not mean a mobile home, but large caravans of those who would sojourney with them and support them and encourage them and bless them and take care of their needs. It's a bit like church. We come together to celebrate all that God is doing amongst us and for us and within us, and to allow others to find their blessings within that. The Magi left their gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh, and we may not have those gifts to offer today, but we do have some gifts. Gifts that we too can honor this Christ child with, gifts that we too can lay before our God. And perhaps the greatest gift that we can give to our God this day is a commitment to follow through on the promises that God has given to us. To follow through on the possibilities of what God is doing in this brand new day, in this brand new year, in this brand new experience of God. And to lay behind us the damage and the hurt and the pain, to be informed by it, perhaps, but not to allow that to define who we are. And to step into this new day, into this new year with a brand new attitude that I know and you know we can stand on the promises of God, of a God who will see us through. That all things will work together for good for those who love God. And in loving God, you must love others. And in loving others, you must love yourself. As St. RuPaul would say. We have the opportunity, friends of God, to follow the star. To follow the star that leads us to the places of wholeness. and not the stars that will lead us to somewhere that is not beneficial for us. We have the opportunity to begin this new year with a commitment to deepen our experience with God and to know the fullness of the good news of God. And in this brand new attitude, we have the opportunity, perhaps tomorrow morning, perhaps even before, to awaken our spirits to that attitude of gratitude, to giving thanks, and to offering our lives to one another. May we as Cathedral of Hope be all in, every piece of who we are, delving deeper into our own selfness of spirituality. And from that place of goodness, may we live lives to their absolute fullest. The Magi found the Christ. Will we? God bless you. Cathedral of Hope, United Church of Christ. Amen.